Today's Hot Issues. Here are your hosts, David, Lombardo, and Gretchen.
And welcome down to Target Radio. I'm David Lombardo.
I'm Gretchen Fritz. Tonight, David and I will be talking about National Education Secretary Arne Duncan saying gang members just need jobs to lead a straight life. The House votes to overhaul NSA phone metadata bulk collecting, but it's not what you're being led to believe. A South Carolina school banning the American flag, and another update on the Dogler family, whose 9 children were taken away by county authorities in Kentucky. The plot thickens.
So be sure to give us a call at 312-642-5600 or go to Facebook, like our page on Target Radio, and ask a question there. Recently, Education Secretary Arne Duncan proved once again liberalism is a mental disorder. Duncan, you may recall, was recruited by Obama in 2009 to be the nation's top educator from his post in Chicago as Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Public Schools. Duncan loves to talk about his great accomplishments in Chicago during his 7-plus-year reign. He touts having united education reformers, teachers, principals, and business stakeholders. Maybe to play poker, but certainly not to do anything positive about gang violence in black community schools. The fact is, at the end of Duncan's stay in Chicago, 79% of the 8th graders in the Chicago Public Schools were not grade level proficient in reading, according to the U.S. Department of Education. And 80% were not grade level proficient in math. It's not difficult to imagine what happened when those students matriculated to high school. And then there's the violence. Many Chicago public schools more closely resemble a war zone than an academic environment. Of the approximately 100 high schools in Chicago, 2/3 called the police to intervene in at least one violent incident on school grounds during the first 7 months of the 2009-2010 school year. And 1/4 of schools called the police more than 17 times during that period. 5% of schools reported at least 51 violent crimes in 1 year. This means that police are involved in violent conflicts at these schools on average close to twice a week. We need not dig too far to uncover a wide assortment of academic and social problems associated with the school system Arne Duncan claims he improved. In classic liberal fashion, Duncan's failed academic guidance earned him the top educator spot where he can implement his inane policies on a national level. According to Duncan, and I quote, "We need public boarding schools," unquote, for gangbangers to get them in line with normative social behavior. Excuse me, but we already have public boarding schools for those sociopaths. They're called jails. Speaking at the same summit where he introduced the idea of public boarding schools, Duncan confessed that he met with gang leaders in Chicago, and they indicated to him that it was a lack of jobs that kept gang members engaged in illicit activities. Are you kidding? We're on the 3rd generation of welfare recipients since Lyndon Johnson enacted the Great Society in 1964. These kids have never even known anyone who held a legitimate job, let alone the requisite education to get one. Let's be honest, crime does pay, at least in the short term. Why would a gangbanger give up a lucrative, albeit probably short-lived career in over-the-fire hydrant drug sales for flipping burgers at McDonald's for minimum wage? What does Duncan think we should do? Enact more affirmative action programs requiring medical schools to accept gangbangers? Why is it liberals always think it's society's fault for the failure of inner-city kids? The truth is, there's no simple answer to the problem. Heck, there's no complex answer to it either. And while I am loath to find myself in the same corner as Mayor Rahm Emanuel and Chicago Superintendent of Police Gary McCarthy, the truth is no mayor or top cop can solve the breakdown of the family unit. It's a sociological issue, and precious few in the black community are willing to recognize the 500-pound gorilla in the room. There's no dad in the family to be a positive role model and make sure kids toe the line. According to the most recent FBI crime statistics, a white homicide victim is over twice as likely to be killed by a black then a black homicide victim is to be killed by a white. 16% of white victims in homicide incidents involving a single victim and single offender were killed by blacks, compared with only 7% of black victims who are killed by whites. Now, given the fact that blacks are less than 13% of the national population, their homicide rate against whites and Hispanics combined is vastly disproportionate to their share of the population. There were 431 black killers of whites compared to 193 white killers of blacks. In 2013, blacks made up 42% of all cop killers whose race was known. So, where's the outrage? Where's Jesse Jackson? Where's Al Sharpton? Where's the press? And where are all those liberal politicians who want to pay reparations, increase entitlement program benefits, and extend them to illegal aliens? The problem is black-on-black violence doesn't further their agenda, so it's simply ignored. And as we all know, if the TV crews are absent, there won't be a visit by the Reverend Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton. Liberalism isn't one whit about the common good, and all about controlling the population. Liberalism is a mental disorder, and elections can be the shock therapy required to cure it. And that, Gretchen, is my rant for the week.
We've talked about this many times, and as you said, there's no simple answer, and even a complex answer is probably woefully insufficient.
What about boarding schools?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll work. Oh, actually, there's the one you mentioned, which is jail, detention facility. There's also Job Corps, which is much the same. I mean, it basically is a boarding school for high-risk,
socially deviant miscreants,
inner city kids, you know, to try to give them some job skills. Holy God, I used to know, I know a woman who used to work there, and, you know, the stories that she would tell me, and I'm sure it was just scratching the surface of what went on there, but
I agree.
it, you know, it made it sound like it was nearly impossible to get through to these kids.
You're listening to On Target Radio. This is AM560 The Answer. Give us a call, 312-642-5600. We're talking in this segment about National Education Secretary Arne Duncan saying that gang members commit crime because they don't have a job. I mean, that is so patently stupid. It's hard to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah, the article that you gave me to reference actually said, somebody said they do have jobs. It's committing crime.
Exactly.
They sell drugs and they murder people. that's their job.
And they do it very effectively. I've said this before.
No, actually, they're not. I mean, they're not really very effective.
Well, it depends how you look at it.
The selling drugs part, I think, is pretty effective. The killing people, I think, is less.
This is like, if you recall, Marie Harf, who was the spokesperson for the Department of the State Department, who came out and said that if ISIS had jobs, they wouldn't be conducting beheadings, destroying property, taking over territory within several national borders, and trying to oust governments. So theoretically, when these like two clowns in Joliet who were going to off the armory, if we'd offered the job at McDonald's, they wouldn't have tried to blow up the armory?
Yeah, I don't know. ISIS, what I've heard is that ISIS is better funded than Al Qaeda. So I don't think jobs is the issue. Something tells me that's not it.
I think if you are willing to die for what you believe in, you're willing to knowingly go in at where you're going to be killed, probably they're not thinking about, gee, I wouldn't do this if I had a job.
Yeah. Well, maybe they should be more likened to Christian missionaries who, in many cases,
in their mind,
they go, yeah, I'm willing to die for what I believe.
Yeah, in their mind,
and that is their job.
Yeah.
I mean, that is their job, is to go someplace that is not their home and
kill people.
Try to convert people
by beheading them.
Well, not Christian missionaries.
Oh, no. I was referring to ISIS.
I was talking about the Christian missionaries. There's a little miscommunication.
Okay, so now that I've stuck my foot in that puddle.
No, Christian missionaries do not typically behead people. I've not heard of that.
You got one death threat. I will now get it from ministers about...
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We need like some former missionaries to be like, you want a beheading? I'll give you a beheading.
I don't know what to say. But I will say this, and we've only got a couple seconds left, but there are 600 gangs recorded in
It's
Chicago.
extraordinary. Some of them only have like 5 people.
But there's 70,000 gang members. All right, we're going to be back with more after a little commercial break here. We'll be back with more on Target Radio. And you're listening to AM560 The Answer.
We're not sure if it's the right answer, but what the hell?
Okay, that one worked out real well.
I'm picturing in my mind former missionaries that I know. It makes me laugh.
When we come back, you're gonna do the Indian. Have you been practicing?
Yep.
Here we go.
I'm working on it.
Like right now. You're just practicing it right now?
Oh, no, that's why I had my bank.
Oh.
Because I had the commercial from last week.
Oh, okay.
See?
He's had his head
All
down
right.
for like 10 minutes. You didn't notice that?
Hmm?
He had his head down for like 10 minutes. You didn't notice that? He's been like 10 and 10 in the paper for like a while.
Okay.
Well, there's like 3 words I need to make sure I nail.
What are they?
Yeah.
First is
Tandoori
name.
Jingo Jumbo Prawn.
Yep.
Oh, Darren DeBrio.
Yep.
Darren Dabrio. I don't know how he says it.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't listen to the show.
That's nice. Tandoori Jinga, jumbo prawns, chicken tikka masala, and the tangy and hot South Indian specialty lamb vindaloo.
There
Oh
you
my
go.
God.
That's it. He's got it.
Much better.
Yeah. But I was waiting for the ISIS reference to the Chicago jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't give them a break, you
That
know.
was funny.
So this is Mary Harf.
Marie Harp. Yeah, I did the same thing. I'm like, who the hell is that anyway?
Yeah.
She
So
looks like-
she's
She looks like she
33.
just graduated from college last week.
She's 33 and is the spokesman for the State Department.
It's like Jan Psaki. Oh my God, do you know who she is?
No.
She's the press secretary for. It's like the department. It's some big.
It's also the State Department.
Is that it?
Yeah, the State Department is on a roll.
Yeah, she's like the press secretary for the State Department. She's an absolute idiot.
No, she's not. She plays one intentionally. Because you don't have to answer hard questions when you're an idiot.
True, but she keeps referencing her age in like a couple of her interviews. You can go and Google it and find it.
How old
But
is she?
not a day over 30.
Yeah,
She's older than
1
that.
minute.
1 minute. We have 1 minute.
She's
This is
older
it.
than that, but I would say between 33 and 35.
And they
She's-
become power brokers at 33.
Jen Psaki?
Yeah,
I think she's probably 25.
yeah. She's older than that because I think she has a PhD.
Well, she's liberal. She probably had one use too.
Kanye West has a PhD.
An honorary
It's-
PhD.
Yeah, it's a fake
We need to
PhD.
clarify that.
Yeah,
But
let's.
it's a PhD.
It's a fake
25
ass
seconds.
PhD.
Kanye West for what? Jumping on stage?
He goes up to the chancellor of the university. He goes, "I'm gonna let you finish." But
All right.
And you're ready to go, right? I'll point to you. Actually, as soon as the music, just come in.
On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect you.
If you love great Indian cuisine, then you must experience Gaylord Fine Indian Cuisine in Schaumburg. Gaylord is so good, Gretchen and David eat there before the show. For over 38 years, 18 in Schaumburg, Gaylord has served an extensive menu of fine Indian cuisine. Signature dishes include tandoori jinga, jumbo prawns, chicken tikka masala, and the tangy and hot South Indian specialty lamb vindaloo. All dishes are prepared using only quality fresh ingredients, including the elaborate $12.95 lunch buffet that's cooked that morning. Manager Darren Dabrio invites you to come early when they open at 11:30 on weekdays and noon on weekends to see the freshness for yourself. We recommend you skip breakfast and save your appetite. Gaylord can accommodate business meetings or events for up to 60 people. Gaylord Fine Indian Cuisine is on Mall Drive just south of Woodfield Mall. Call 847-619-3300 or visit gaylordil.com. Gaylord Fine Indian Cuisine is the Mercedes of fine dining. 847-619-3300.
Internet guy, what an intern guy. It's a long day today. Intern guy, good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, we got him working.
I'm working on it.
Unfortunately, Rick well, Rick had emergency surgery.
Yeah, he had a medical emergency.
Yeah, and so he won't be in tonight. He'll be fine. He sent us a text or said he'd be okay, but it was a little scary there. So,
Yeah, it's not serious problem.
yeah. So we're missing Rick. So intern guy's here. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
His name's Brian, by the way.
Yeah,
Hey, that's what it is.
we're a family. We're a big happy family. We were talking in the last segment. We were talking about the whole education thing and just government, how out of control government really is.
Yeah.
And now the other thing that we're going to talk about in this one is, and here's the interesting thing about politicians. And of course, you're a politician, so I got to be careful what I say.
Yeah,
But
be careful.
the word that's on, that is out, is that the House voted overwhelmingly to end, the bulk collections, the NSA collecting data. That's a terrible thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
We're
that-
going to take care of business.
exactly. We're doing away with all of that. Well, they're replacing it with the USA Freedom Act, which actually has broader collecting data.
Yeah, it's actually fairly similar, but instead of the government collecting it, they're going to just make the phone companies hold on to it.
Exactly. What could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah, that sounds much better.
So all of this hoopla about your legislators in your corner and doesn't want to see, your individual rights and all that, that's a crock, because they are going to basically do the exact same thing. Under the USA Freedom Act, phone metadata is what they call that. Records of phone numbers, call dates, times, and durations would be retained by telecommunication companies, not by the government. Well, that makes a big difference. These records could still be searched by the NSA. And they can use a selection term which identifies a particular person, an account, or an address. Not an entire phone or internet company. They can't just take the whole thing, but a broad geographic region, such as a state, city, or a zip code.
No, it says not a broad geographic region.
Yeah, not an entire phone or internet company.
So basically, they have to get a court order. They have to say, okay, we have probable cause that this phone number is calling this other phone number that's a known terrorist. So we want to search your records.
A city.
we want to search your records for this phone number.
Yeah.
So give us all your records on this phone number.
So.
But they have to get a court order.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is actually still the same thing they're supposed to be doing right now.
Right, which pretty much they ignore. But here's the thing, as pretty much any cop will tell you, if you want to get a court order to do something, you know which judge to go to. I mean, that's how it works, right?
Okay.
You do. Well, we'll go to this guy because we know we'll get it from him.
Uh-huh.
This,
The problem that I have with it says it's already gained the support of the White House, the intelligence community, and the U.S. Federal Appeals Court.
exactly.
So, to me,
That's
again,
it.
if it's gained the support of the White House, it can't be good.
We know that this is it. You're listening to On Target Radio. It's AM560 The Answer. Give us a call, 312-642-5600. This is the part that turns my nose up the most. Senate Republican leaders have insisted that bulk data collection program currently in use should be renewed in its current form, but admit they may not have the votes to do so. These are the people that we elected telling us they were going to reform what's been going on.
Sure. Republicans. These
Yeah.
are Republicans.
Exactly. And they're saying, well, we really ought to do it. I mean, what's a little privacy? Who cares? It really scares me. John Cornyn, who's a pretty conservative guy,
Yeah,
Republican
and he's from Texas, so yeah, generally you would think that he's probably going to be on the right track, but no.
He's quoted as saying, "I believe if we allow these provisions to expire, Homeland Security will be at a much greater risk." But here's the interesting thing: there is not, and they admit it, there has yet to be a single case that it has stopped anything. Not one.
Right, right. And he calls it legitimate tools of intelligence, like this program.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. Justin Amash, who's a Republican from Michigan, actually kind of hit it on the head. He said, "You'll read all sorts of stories and headlines about how the latest USA Freedom Act ends bulk collection. It doesn't. In fact, the bill expressly authorizes for the first time the NSA, FBI, and other government agencies to unconstitutionally collect data in bulk on potentially millions of law-abiding Americans."
Yeah, another guy that you would think would be on the right track, Representative Will Hurd, is also a Republican from Texas and a former CIA officer. And he says the bill strikes the right balance between privacy and security.
Yeah, that's a balanced beam I don't want to travel. So this new, the new thing, USA Freedom Act, and I love the titles they give these things. You know, the new Hug Your Baby Act. You know, this kind of nonsense.
They come up with the most ridiculous names, and a lot of times they're just trying to make it conform to some cutesy pie acronym.
Or they're sugarcoating.
A lot of times
they're
trying to construct an acronym.
I can't say the word for. Never mind. You can't. I was going to say.
Probably
you can't.
Not.
Sugar-coated? No. George is shaking his head.
Just go with no.
No. Just go with no. But in that USA Freedom Act, there is a section 215, and it authorizes the government to collect records and other. Now listen to this: tangible things. Okay, tangible things that are relevant to a terrorism or foreign intelligence investigation. To support the bulk collection of data pertaining to millions of law-abiding Americans, the government has effectively claimed that all records everywhere are potentially relevant to a current or future investigation, and thus all records are fair game for collecting. In its ruling, the Second Circuit had little choice but to reject the government's broad interpretation of relevant. Gee, you think? Given that the rest of the statute gives no indication Congress ever contemplated collection on such a mass scale. Well, so far so good.
We have a comment on Facebook. Our Jewish friend Michael in New York City. He actually called me out one time for calling him that, and I said, "Well, you just happen to be the only Jewish person we know in New York City."
In New York City, that's all.
He's just a very specific.
He's a nice guy. We met him at the
the Chicago show.
Right.
Yeah. And I was really happy that he came because he's actually very conservative, but he says the Republicans act like they don't have the majority in the House or Senate. McConnell and Boehner are the weakest leaders ever.
And we've talked about that very thing.
Yeah, you've been saying that for months.
These people ran for office, some of them for the first time, specifically saying, we're going to go clean up the stuff.
Yeah, and I had a moment like last week or the week before, the Senate actually finally proposed a budget that cut out billions of dollars that the president wanted to spend. So I actually had a brief moment of pride, and now they're doing this.
Was that the clause that put in that the president couldn't take another vacation?
It probably would have helped. Anyway, would have helped the budget.
That's another whole. So we could do a show on that.
Maybe we should.
Yeah, I mean seriously.
You're not kidding. Oh, and the first lady. Holy crap.
You saw where she was complaining because she didn't get paid?
Oh yeah, and the White House is like prison.
Yeah, and her life is very difficult being the first black first lady. It was very difficult for her to do that.
I think we should do an entire show just about Michelle Obama.
Put me off my feed. You know what I'm saying? I probably wouldn't eat for a week.
You haven't missed any meals, so I think that's probably not a problem.
It's good to have friends. Good to have friends. Yes, it is. Well, on that note, we'll just sort of slide into another commercial break. He made a very interesting slip. He was talking to a group, and he said, this gets the conspiracy theorist guys going. He said, Michael and I. Oh, yeah. He's quoted as that. That's interesting.
I missed that one.
We're going to be back with more on Target Radio after a few messages. Michael and I. And you're listening to AM560, The Answer. Did you see that? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
My mom's been on that speculation train forever.
Yeah.
Well,
that just fueled the fire,
brother.
If
you look at all of his documented
travel
records, there's always some guy with him.
Well, and it was, what's her name? Joan Rivers. who made that comment.
Oh, really?
You didn't read about that?
That Michelle's a transvestite.
Oh, I forget what she was asked by the press. She was walking into something, and the press asked her a question, something about gays or transgender or something, and
She's
she,
at the airport.
is that what it was? And she turned around and she said, "Well, we already have one in the White House." Whoa! And then she died shortly thereafter.
I was gonna say it's about 5 weeks later, the mysterious cosmetic
that's true.
surgical
She did.
complications.
Yeah.
It's like the end of Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, except instead of Anakin and Yoda and then it's in Obi-Wan, it's Breitbart and Joan Rivers and what was that guy that died in his Mercedes after Snowden gave him articles?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, the Fox reporter.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Michael.
Oh, so Gronkowski says, "Good one, Gretchen. Laughing my ass off." Well, fine.
If we had,
If you'd have laughed your ass off, you wouldn't have had that comment in the first place.
Well, probably true.
I didn't have time to say what I said to you earlier when we were texting.
What's that?
He was making somebody who's overweight, and I said,
Oh.
men who live in glass houses should not throw stones.
It's good to have your emotional
Touche.
support. Rick said, watching the live cam, good job, Brian, on the commercial.
Oh,
Can I hear audio on that?
oh yeah.
Rick, if you can hear me, get better.
And if you can't, never mind.
Tough luck.
That's actually why we do it, because my mom likes to hear what we say during the commercial, so that's why we do it that way. Because if
We just have to be careful not to talk about your mother.
Yeah, if we take the radio feed, then they get nothing during the
Yeah.
commercial. It's just pictures with no sound, so that's why we went with the camera microphone.
Okay, so did you read this at all about the high school?
Affirmative. There was a video on Facebook too. It was about a year ago. It wasn't just one. It was another one.
Fun fact: my brother's best friend. My brother's a huge city redneck, if that makes sense. One of his best friends might as well be boyfriend. Not literally figurative speech,
Yeah, I
but
know.
he does the exact same thing. He's got 2 massive American flags flying out the back of his truck.
Yeah. Have you seen the Facebook video? There's a Facebook video of the
Yeah, the
exact
car's
game.
just piling in.
Yeah, like they said that they weren't allowed. It was some school in the South. They weren't allowed to have flags on their trucks, and one right after the
Yeah,
biggest
there was the
American
truck,
flag,
the cars, and
the biggest American flags they could get to.
yeah,
to stand
there were
upright,
people on
probably.
the street and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
identical.
It's like, how are you gonna ban that? Who's it?
Yeah, first of all, who's gonna complain? Second of all, like, what stupid school administrator thinks there's not gonna be any backlash over
Well,
that?
the thing I want to know is, since when did the flag become offensive, and since when did we care about feelings?
They certainly did.
That's right.
Didn't when I was in school.
Well, and I
This is
don't.
America, damn it! We don't give a shit how you feel.
That's right.
Well, the thing is your feelings should not dictate my rights, and that's
Well, right, exactly.
when did feelings trump rights?
Oh, speaking of which,
That's not approved speech.
I
how
can't.
about that?
Can I say that on the radio? What if I add an F word to it?
I heard the
Then you're
best.
gonna take the express down to the first floor.
I heard the best black phrase this week that I've never like. Black people talk in like a very colorful way, but it's usually very expressive and useful.
God, I have an extremely broad vocabulary.
Yeah, well, I mean, they express themselves in a different way. But anyway, so a friend of mine on Facebook who's black, there was a picture of another one of her Facebook contacts, and it's a blonde white woman like hugging up on a black man, and my black friend says, I mean, everybody's Facebook friend, so she's being facetious. She goes, that picture's making me feel some sort of way.
Ah,
I'm
some
like,
type of way.
oh, feeling some sort of way. That's so good.
Yeah, that's a pretty common one. Feeling some.
I had never heard that one before. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. That's useful. That's very useful. Yeah, I was not familiar with that one. Oh my god, that makes me feel so far away.
Go to bluecardshopping.com. That's bluecardshopping.com. Bluecardshopping.com. On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer. Lombardo and Gretchen. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your.
And we're back with more on Target Radio. Give us a call, 312-642-5600. This little bit disturbs me. And Brian actually Brian is intern guy, because I always call him intern guy. He actually has a name. He has a name. And he brought up an interesting thing. When did the flag become offensive?
Right.
Okay. Now here's a kid, and this is a South Carolina school. The South, generally speaking, is like beyond the pale in patriotism.
Right.
Okay.
Typically.
Exactly. So,
although, isn't South Carolina where until like a couple of years ago they flew the Confederate flag over the state capitol?
but that's to them patriotic.
Well, true.
That's
It's state patriotic.
they don't refer to it as the Civil War. They refer to it as the war of northern aggression.
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they're every pickup truck, of which there's plenty of them,
Mostly.
has a bumper sticker, and it says, "If you're hard Indian Dixie, get your ass out." I mean, they still study the law of northern aggression in school. But here's the thing. So here's a kid, a high school kid, and he's flying an American flag and a POW/MIA flag on the back of his truck.
Mhm.
And somebody complains. And so what do? The school goes in and tells them, they take him out of class.
Yeah.
Like this, they have nothing better than to take a kid out of a class, which
He's
is
supposedly
why
learned
they're
something.
there, right? Which is why he's there to begin with, over a dispute over an American flag.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense at all?
No, not at all. And they don't actually say who complained. I'm guessing it was not really a complaint, but then they said it was a safety issue and it violated the school student driver policy.
Yeah, that was a quick save, right?
Like, what kind of bizarre policy is that?
So when the kid's name was Robinson, his name was Robinson. I don't know, maybe Mrs. Robinson. I'm not sure. Could be in a movie. But he goes home, and what does he do? Immediately puts the flags back on, and he goes to social media, Facebook and stuff, and gets an enormous. I mean, it's
he basically says, "Everybody meet me at the grocery store at 8 a.m. and we're going to go over to the school."
Exactly, and that was a huge show of support, and as a result, it says school officials caved and said Robinson could keep the flags on his truck as long as they didn't present a driving hazard. Now, I'm wondering, did he launder them and they shrunk overnight? How did it suddenly not be a safety hazard? Well, of course they caved is what happened.
Right.
And it says they reviewed their policy on flags on vehicles, and an exception will be made for the American flag, as long as the size of the flag does not create a driving hazard. I think it's the biggest crock of doo-doo I've ever heard. If you went to Northern with a flag on your car, would they call you out of class, do you think?
No, not a chance.
I don't, I mean, it's just, when did this happen?
I don't know. I really can't tell you. It's a little tangential, but I actually had somebody giving me the stink eye in traffic the other day, and I think it was because of the bumper stickers.
Well, we should take a picture of the bumper stickers on your car and put it on Facebook.
They're not that bad. I have 2 Second Amendment type stickers and one anti-abortion sticker.
I can sympathize with that. Don't mean to chime in, but I have a 2001 Dodge Ram pickup truck, and one day I came home to my brother slapping a big sticker on the back that says "Shove gun control up your," and it has a big picture of the Democrat sign.
Donkey.
Yeah, donkey.
Well,
But
there you
it's
go.
sitting on the back of my truck.
Sure. But yeah, and this guy was giving me a stink eye in traffic over. I mean, I don't know which one of my bumper stickers he found offensive.
But I seem to recall, and not that I'm sticking up for the guy, but I seem to recall some time ago when somebody drove by with an Obama sticker on the back of their thing, you made a comment about that.
Maybe.
Well, I don't remember exactly what you said. I remember laughing at it, but it was, the Hopi changey thing, and he drove by, and you just made this sort of comment about it.
Yeah, but I don't go around giving people the stink eye.
Well, no, I don't.
First Amendment, I can make a comment, but I
I'm not that sure what stink eye is.
Well, he was eyeballing me, and I actually felt threatened. I will tell you, I actually felt
Seriously?
I felt like he was gonna either do something to me in traffic, like try to get into an accident with me, or it was aggressive.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why the good Lord invented Glock.
Yeah, and I was disarmed. I felt very vulnerable at that particular moment.
Are you telling me that there was a moment when you weren't carrying?
Yeah, I had been at a governing board, at a county board meeting, and so I didn't go armed. I mean, we're not allowed to carry there,
I
so
didn't know you were.
I was unarmed.
I don't go anywhere. Oh, good. Tell it to like 15,000 people that I'm on. I mean, that I'm on.
I think everybody pretty much knew that. We talk about that with some regularity.
We do. But just, to kind of wrap up what we've been talking about, this whole flag issue, this is like the Ten Commandments. Every courthouse has the Ten Commandments in it because our laws were originally built on that document. It was a document. And now that you can't do that. That's bad. I mean, what's happened to this country? When we come back, we'll talk about what's happened in this country. We're going to talk about, we'll give you an update on the parents that have their kids taken away from them. So all that and a little bit more, because it's our last short segment, when we come back with more On Target Radio. And you're listening to AM560, The Answer.
Sorry, I didn't mean to just jump in,
that's
but
fine.
I thought that was funny. Perfect correlation.
Yeah,
That is fine.
It was relevant. So did you see this though? Did you see the? I think this is the one where they're living in a shack.
Well, these are the people we've been talking about,
electricity.
and now picture's getting a little bigger. But what law? They're not breaking the law.
Right.
If you want to live in a shack,
Yeah.
they have a compost toilet. I mean, it's not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's their right to do that,
Uh-huh.
but not according to the county government.
It's kind of like that
Well,
old.
some places the building codes require that if you build a inhabitable structure, it has to be connected to utilities. So,
I don't give a rat's ass. Personally.
well, that would technically be breaking the law if you didn't then connect a habitable structure to utilities.
Yeah, but
Well,
does it say you can't have children living in that type of a structure? I mean,
No, but that's considered. It's the
ordinance.
way.
No.
But what about-
I work for county government, and I will tell you, ordinances
Right.
get you fined. They don't get your children taken away.
No, I
but
understand.
would the same thing count for Alaska?
I've worked way to hit the mic, jerk. Don't break the stuff. Well, as a contrary, when you deal with codes and all that stuff, with building codes specifically, most of them are either A, sold by the unions to keep the little guy out, or B, sold as a public safety issue.
Sure.
And the line on when places have that you have to connect utilities and sewer and stuff like that, they sell it as a public safety issue. So if you're not, it's considered uninhabitable, therefore unsafe. Right. It's all askew,
Yeah.
but that's why.
Well, like you're saying, it's gray. It's gray and squishy.
It's not the only thing.
Well, we were talking about, what was it? Utilities? What about living in a cabin in Alaska, though?
Right.
Well, if you're in a cabin in Alaska, it's very unlikely that your local municipality or governing body would require that you hook up to utilities.
No, but you get my point. What if you're living in Salmonock, Illinois? You built a little log cabin that's lit by a furnace, and then you have an outhouse.
Right. I've got a place with an outhouse in the middle of the woods in Indiana. What I'm saying is, when you're in an area that's rural like that, it's very unlikely that there would be that ordinance.
I don't know the specifics of the case, but I was merely providing an example.
A poor one. No, I'm just kidding. 25 seconds.
The guy who sits next to me in county board is texting me about he's listening to the show.
Oh yeah.
He says that somebody, General Keith Alexander, detailed 15 threats thwarted by the NSA.
No. I don't know. I've read they haven't.
But just because they were thwarted by the NSA doesn't mean it was from the phone collection.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. Give us a call. 312-642-5600. We've been talking about government kind of going berserk, and what could be scarier than government messing around with your children? There was
Pretty much nothing.
there was a case in Maryland, Methods, I think is how they pronounce it, who were being investigated because they had the temerity to allow their children to walk to the park on their own.
Right.
You know, oh, what a horrifying thing that would happen. Now, we've talked 2 different times, as I recall now, about the Nogglers, that family in Kentucky with 9 kids, which is a lot of kids.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of kids, yeah. But here's the deal. There's the 2 parents and there's 9 kids. And the county went in and snatched the 9 kids, took them all, and gave them no explanation at all. Remember that? It went on for weeks.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about it like last week. We talked about it.
And then a couple of times, a couple of weeks prior to that. So they gave them no reason whatsoever. They took the kids, didn't know where the kids were. The Nogglers were homeschooling their kids. Now, a little more has fleshed out. I found this yesterday or the day before. And mind you, there was nothing wrong. The kids were healthy. They were not malnourished.
Right.
All that. But the family was essentially living off the grid. Okay? And maybe, you know, they were a little, who knows, you know.
They're different. I saw them on the television news.
Oh, you've actually, I haven't seen them.
Yeah, they're different.
Okay. But this is America. We have, you know, people.
Absolutely.
We know different people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some of them are here in this studio. And George is waving, so they recognize that. They recognize it. But here's the deal. It said the complaint about families' living conditions, which allegedly included residing under a crude tarp construction, having no heat or running water, and having no septic. But they didn't have a septic, but they had a compost toilet.
Okay.
Which is very common in rural areas and cabins and hunting and fishing cabins, and it works fine. Those work. I don't think they're real base here, but but I've used them and they're okay. They work fine. So rather than saying to them X, Y, Z, they just come in and snatch the kids and take off.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I've known people who've had children taken away, or not taken away, but who've been threatened by DCFS. And the problem, one of the problems, I mean there's many problems, but one of the problems is that once DCFS gets involved in your life, they never go away.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah,
it is
they
a nightmare.
Never ever go away.
Yeah. Well, they got nothing better to do.
Right. I mean, they consider it their business at that point.
We got a live one. This is it.
Exactly.
Yeah. This justifies the paycheck.
You know, this reminds me of the thing that we sometimes say, and it's actually happened with this type of situation where people's having their children taken away before. And it's, I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, but I will absolutely defend your right to say it.
Right.
And that's exactly, to me, that's the situation. I don't necessarily agree with the way that they live, and I certainly wouldn't want to live that way, but I will absolutely defend their right to do it.
They're not breaking a law. They're not hurting anybody. Their kids are fine. And here, you know, they point out that they have a wood stove for heat, open cabin made of metal and tarps, composting toilet, a pond with potable water, and a generator for power. So they're living different than we do.
Mm-hmm.
They're not bothering anybody, not hurting anybody. There was never a claim there was anything wrong with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
The county just simply didn't want them to do it, so they just flexed their muscle.
And it's not even that they're poor, I guess. It's that they have a pet grooming business, so they have income, and their lifestyle is intentional. They say it's not because they're poor. It's just that's what they want to do.
And yeah, this is the problem with the country today. It really is.
Yeah, there was a case several years ago of a senior citizen, I think in Florida, who similarly she lived in a town, but she had chosen to live off the grid. She had no electricity, and I believe no running water in her house. And the authorities were like trying to find her, and they were really persecuting her and going after her for like no good reason. She just didn't want to be on the grid.
Why can't you do that?
I think you should be able to do that, especially if you live in a shack in the woods. I mean, she was living in a city, so I mean, it's a little bit different. But, you know, I mean, I've actually, because I deal with unincorporated areas and the boats that I take and things, I actually had someone comment on my Facebook page that, you know, she had a problem with a neighbor who had too bright of lights in their yard at night, and she couldn't see the night sky, and it was, you know, it was the light was disturbing her, and I had voted against an ordinance.
I remember that.
And my thought is, maybe you'd be happier living in a municipality where they have rules about that sort of
Well,
thing.
and I mean, that is a good point. The reality is this country is now run by people, by voters who live in urban areas. The agrarian culture, while it still exists, is no longer the dominant
It's
culture.
smaller and smaller.
Exactly.
All the time.
And so, you know, Chicagoans will move out to where we live to escape the city.
Sure.
And what do?
They bring it with them.
They bring it with them. They immediately start writing in the paper. We got coyotes out here. What are you going to do? People are burning,
Right.
you know, burning leaves. What are you going to Why did you move here?
Right, exactly.
They want it. It's just like ISIS. It's like those guys are the same thing.
It's just like back in the 1800s, you know, go home, go back to where you came from.
Exactly.
I want to say to the urban people, go back to where you came from.
These, you know, the radical Muslims hate where they live.
Yeah.
So they want to come to a place that's not like it and change it to be like the place they hate where they live.
Right. They want the caliphate.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. They're all nutballs. Everybody's a nutball. That's it. It's over. We're gonna take one last break here. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. Gretchen's got her thing for what you can do for the week. So stick with us. We'll be back after a few brief commercials with more on Target Radio. And you are listening to AM560 The Answer. Intern guy.
It's going pretty well, I think.
Yes.
Considering you're exhausted and I can't breathe.
And we didn't prepare at all. Oh, that one got you. Got that one up the snout there, didn't you?
Almost. Very close. Very, very close.
John from Crete called. He's pretty mad at you, Gretchen.
Uh-oh.
John from Crete.
Why is he
Yeah.
mad at me?
He's mad at you. I hung up on him. He's
I
mad at
didn't say
you.
anything about Catholics.
You're close. He thinks you were comparing on equal terms Christian missionaries and ISIS folk.
No, I said.
And I explained it to him a number of times, and he still thinks you were comparing Christian missionaries
That's
to
okay.
ISIS folk. So you may just want to go ahead and say, by the way, we're
not
not comparing
comparing
Christian missionaries to ISIS folk.
folks. We haven't heard from him.
We
in
should let-
months.
It's been a
Yeah,
while.
I wasn't missing him.
Did he say anything?
Oh yeah, he
Why?
said a lot of things. He said the same thing repeatedly.
It sounds like he said the same thing several times.
Yeah.
You should have let him on the
I
air.
told him, I was like, you sort of missed what she was saying. I tried to lead him to it. Oh, okay, well, hold on. Okay.
Do you want to say it or shall I?
Oh, maybe you should.
All right.
It'll sound too defensive if I say it.
No, he didn't. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're having fun now. Doesn't get better than this, Brian. You know what I'm saying?
I'm having a good time.
Oh, he must have been slightly incensed that I hung up on him. 20 seconds, by the way. He just called me and said that I finished. I said, hey, brother, I gotta do my job. I can't talk all day. And I hung up, and he said that I called him brother. I'm not his brother.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
He said that? Hey, Gangler. Okay, John, here's the thing. She was not comparing.
John from Crete.
Yeah, John from Crete. She was not comparing Christian missionaries to ISIS.
I was contrasting.
Yeah, she was contrasting. So don't get upset. You're talking. If it were me, you might expect that, but not from her, because that would not be the way she would think.
Exactly.
Speaking of Gretchen, we have that magic time of the week that you wait for to find out what you can be doing in the upcoming week.
This year's Clyde Howell NRA Youth Shooting Sports Camp will be June 26th to 28th at the ISRA Range in Bondfield. The camp is for young people ages 10 to 16. The fee is just $150, which includes all meals and ammunition. To sign your child up for the Clyde Hall NRA Youth Shooting Sports Camp, go to saferusanfp.org and click on Clyde Hall or use the link on our Facebook page. The League of Women Voters of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff is having a speaker event called Our Growing Threat from Guns on Thursday, May 21st at 7 p.m. One speaker will be from the Illinois Council Against Handgun Violence, and the other, a retired FBI agent. The website asks, how can we protect our families, friends, and selves and still keep Second Amendment freedom? They've got questions, we've got the answer. If you live in the Lake Forest area, please attend this meeting at the Church of the Holy Spirit. Wear Second Amendment gear so everyone knows who you are. And if you see the media there, approach them and let them know you are a law-abiding gun owner. I also put the information on Facebook. The following Safer USA classes are all at our office in Waterman. Saturday, May 23rd, Tactical Rifle 1 and 2, taught by Eric. Saturday and Sunday, May 23rd and 24th, Illinois Concealed Carry 1. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and Gretchen, and I think Bronkowski, if I'm not mistaken, and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry, as well as Florida, Arizona, and Utah. Sunday, May 24th, Women's Concealed Carry Issues, taught by Gretchen. Sunday, May 24th, Tactical Rifle and Pistol, taught by Eric. Saturday and Sunday, May 30th and 31st, NRA Pistol Instructor, taught by David. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on register. You like that? Was that a good?
That was a live read.
No, but I mean, was it a good imitation of the announcer guy with the voice?
Oh, the voice. Yeah, no, it wasn't actually. I'm sorry. You have to have.
You guffawed. I thought it was good.
You have to have something that you don't have to have.
Cojones.
So, it's George. It's hard to get rid of an engineer, you know? It really is.
Yeah, he's kind of just there.
And he's just kind of there. Yeah, I don't know.
And he has his own room. He could probably lock the door and keep us out.
You know, have you ever actually listened to our show? After a while, you listen to it for a while, and you begin to like look around corners before you walk out in the open.
Oh, absolutely, no question. Especially after last week's segment 6.
Yeah, I'm beginning to get a little paranoid listening to my own show. It's a little, but you know, the SUV thing still bothers.
Did you see it again?
No, I didn't, but it still bothers me.
That's good.
For those who were listening to that show, I always joke about, you know, there's a black SUV with tinted windows permanently parked in front of my house. I joked about that for years on the show. And one day, what was it, maybe a month ago?
Well, it was a couple months ago.
Okay.
It actually happened.
I go out and get in my car to drive away, and across the street and down the block is a black SUV with tinted windows, and a guy in the front seat with binoculars looking at me. And I'm like, oh my God. So it's really bothering me, and I finally circle all the way around. I come back, I'm going to come at him from behind, and he's gone. That's freaky. Anyway, we'll talk more about my being surveilled by the NSA next week when we're back from On Target Radio. And you know what? We're just out of time. That's it. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with more On Target Radio.